Hi, this is Otto, and today I would like to introduce the Ebel 1911 Wave chronograph El Primero. This channel is reporting about new releases, watches from the 1980s and almost anything between. It's reporting about movements and technological developments as well as about ups and downs with watches. Among all the videos that were so far released or that are on our list for upcoming productions, there is no other watch where all these issues can be covered better than with this one. The Ebel 1911 Wave chronograph El Primero. It's about a legendary movement, one that is classified as haute horlogerie, the art of watchmaking, that is in line with other legendary movements from Patek Philippe, Lange & Söhne or whomever. And regarding the prices, it's, I would say, the showcase you should know about if you should consider the financial performance of a watch as a criteria when thinking about the purchase of a watch. In the mid-1980s, Ebel launched the Wave series of casual elegant watches. There were fine, slim 2- or 3-pointer quartz watches for ladies and gentlemen, most of them in mixed color, mixing stainless steel with golden trim lines and a golden bezel. They had been a tremendous success for the family business. I myself used to know a number of people having such a watch in mixed, spanning from secretary to president or CEO. The model lineup was completed by this chronograph, housing the already back then iconic Zenith el Primero movement, self-winding with a date complication and featuring the dial with a tachymeter. When this watch was bought in the mid-1980s, the choice of mechanical watches with this specification and a less sporty character was extremely limited. Back then, Zenith basically produced only Ebauche, but didn't run an own watch production. It was more or less clear that it should be this one. I did like it, and still I do. It's a watch that still can be worn in 90% of all occasions. Zenith, a well-respected watch producer and movement supplier, had developed the El Primero chronograph movement with self-winding 5 Hz frequency and date complication. It was brought to the market in 1969. In the early 1960s, a race sparked between Seiko, Zenith and Chronometer group of back then 4 independent watch companies, Breitling, Dubois Debras, Hamilton Bühren and Heuer, to develop a self-winding chronograph. Zenith was the first to present its El Primero in January 1969, while the other two announced their calibers later the same year. To make a long story short, amidst the quartz crisis from the late 1970s through the 1980s, Ebel approached Zenith and received the El Primero as movement for their new chronograph in the Wave lineup, the only mechanical watch in that line. A little later, Rolex acquired the El Primero movement for their Daytona Cosmograph, however without date function and a different escape running only at 4 Hz. Still, these two chronographs, the Ebel Wave and the Rolex Daytona, were siblings by their movement and the two hottest competitors during those years. In 1995, however, Ebel announced a new movement called Le Moduleur and based on a Lemania caliber. However, the same year, Ebel was sold to a group of investors and the success story of Ebel came to an end with a new marketing strategy. Prices and financial performance. In 1986, the 1911 El Primero was listed around 3,500 Deutsche Mark, back then roughly $2,000. Retail prices continuously increased to some 11,000 Deutsche Mark in 1994, about 6,650 US, and quite close to the Rolex Daytona Cosmograph with the same movement, to be on a level playing field. That time, used watches were sold around 7,000 Deutsche Mark, a little more than 4,000 US. In other words, if the watch would have been sold after 6 years, the owner would have made a profit of 100% on top of the initial investment. However, there are two downsides with that calculation. Number one, the interest rates were around 9% per year back then. In other words, investing in the stock exchange might have bought even more. Second, reinvesting into another watch of the same quality would not have led to a profit at all, since prices for good mechanical chronos developed the same way. In other words, this calculation is quite naive assessment of the situation. The story goes on. Today, Ebel El Primero chronos range between 1,400 and 2,200 euros in steel or mixed. However, the supply situation is quite limited. There's a wide range of watches with golden housing from both companies, Ebel as well as Zenith. Prices are more or less depending if it comes with leather or a solid golden bracelet, ranging from 3,500 to 12,000 euros, which is approximately 4,000 to 14,000 US dollars. Just by the way, prices for Zenith el Primeros from the same year are more or less the same. In other words, the used watch had its peak value while it was in its peak when sold from new. After it wasn't available anymore, the prices started to decrease. Later, they eroded. Today, it's possible to acquire a genuine Zenith or an Ebel El Primero chronograph from the late 1980s through the 1990s for really small money in both steel or golden versions. Prior to talking about the service, I would like to ask to sign up for a subscription, the bell and thumbs up if you should like what this channel is doing here. Believe me, it leans a lot. Service. The most important question is, how can a watch be serviced? Until the early 2000s, this was no problem at all, since spares were available and so were watchmakers who are trained on servicing this truly delicate high-end movement. During the 2000s, Zenith changed the policy and wanted to do in-house service only. That policy was changed back and forth. Since a couple of years they don't sell spares anymore. The watchmakers, even the concessionaires of Ebel, can't access to spares either. So what to do? The shown watch needed a movement overhaul, so Zenith was contacted and they sent a shipping kit to get it to a place in France from where they take care, although being informed in the first place that this is an El Primero from Ebel. Probably 2 days after arrival in Le Locle, Zenith informed that this is an Ebel watch and that they send it to the Movado, present mother of Ebel, headquarter in Biel, for being serviced there. Then Movado came with a quote for the necessary service that said the movement will be sent to Zenith and swapped for an overhauled movement. Since that swap took approximately 6 weeks, it can be assumed that Zenith revised this particular movement and then returned it. The Movado service encased it, replaced the crown and the crown tube, sealed the housing with a new gasket and returned it to me. Now, 4 weeks later, the watch is running in a frame of between -1 and +2 seconds per 24 hours. Simply perfect. At the end of the day, the price was approximately 20% higher than if either the local Zenith trained watchmaker or if Zenith themselves would have done it if it was a genuine Zenith watch. At the end of the day, I have to confess, in case of OEM El Primero movements, it was a good idea if Zenith would have been a little bit more easy about spares. I'm sure it would be not that difficult to ask the serial number of the ébauche as well as the type and serial number of the housing, and then provide trained watchmakers with spares or allow watchmakers to send the ébauche for swapping to a Zenith service center. What are the downturns? Well, the water resistance of that Wave Chrono El Primero is the same than the Royal Oak, basically none. And the movement is delicate. Kindly understand, it's not the moon watch with that indestructible Lemania caliber, it's not a Valjoux 7750, no, it's this fine and delicate El Primero. So please handle it with care. If you can get this version, the gold steel mixed from Ebel, you have a watch for 90% of all occasions, such as office, shopping, official occasions, as long as it's not an event with a formal dress code, or joining some kind of sports event where sand, water or vibrations are a natural part of the game. However, the slightly more sporty version in plain steel is still okay for usual activities. Given that the 5 Hz El Primero is as much a true collector's item as it is a piece of art, and that pieces for 30-year-old versions are ranging from below 1,500 euro or below 2,000 US dollar, you can really find an absolutely fine watch at a very affordable price. And there are many golden watches on the market, even with annual calendar with leather strap. They are still a beautiful bargain. That's it for today, and thank you very much for watching. See you again soon. Bye.